Hi there! Today we're going to make this wire wrap pendant. So let's get wrapping. To make this, we need 1mm diameter wire, which is 18 gauge, 0.4mm diameter wire, which is 26 gauge, and a bead. Mine's 12mm in diameter. And the tools we need are round nose pliers, flat or chain nose pliers, wire cutters, and an awl. For this project, we're using 3 pieces of the 1mm or 18 gauge wire that are 30cm or 12 inches long, and 1 piece of the 0.4mm diameter wire, 26 gauge, which is 3 meters long, or whatever you're comfortable working with. You can add in later. And we're going to weave the leaf weave, and we're going to start in the centre of the base wire and the centre of the weaving wire. So we'll start by wrapping that first wire 3 times. Then add our second wire on top, wrap both wires once, and take the weaving wire between them. Then add the third base wire on top of that, wrap those top 2 wires twice, then take the weaving wire between the top 2 wires. Then we'll wrap the bottom 2 wires once, and that completes our first leaf. Then we're going to wrap that bottom base wire 5 times. And we're ready to start on our next leaf. So we'll wrap the bottom 2 wires once, take the weaving wire up between them, wrap the top 2 wires twice, take the weaving wire between them, wrap the bottom 2 wires once again, take that weaving wire between them, and then wrap just the bottom wire 5 times. And I have a video with more details on the leaf weave. I'll drop it in a card above and in the description below. Now before we get too far, I'm going to turn this over and start wrapping the other side as well. So this is exactly the same, but it's just now upside down. Make sure there's 5 wraps on that top wire. Then 1 wrap on the top 2 wires. Two wraps on the bottom 2 wires. 1 wrap on the top 2 wires, and then 5 wraps on that top wire again. And we're just going to continue this weave until we've got enough to fit halfway around the bead. So once we've got that length, we can start bending the weave around . And just check that it meets halfway around the bead. So we can then take the 2 ends of the weaving wire through the bead in opposite directions. And pull that tight into place. Make sure the weaving wires are going through the frame in the right place to continue the weave. And make sure it's all sitting nicely around the bead. Then we'll continue that leaf weave on both sides. And we're going to weave this a fair way up to create a teardrop shape. Once I've added a bead like this, I like to make a few wraps on one side and then do a few wraps on the other side just to secure it all in place. Then I can continue the weave. Once we've got a reasonable amount of the weave on both sides, we're going to twist this frame. So we're just going to turn it so it's flat to the front. Then we can start deciding how long we want this teardrop shape to be, and shape it a bit more. Then we'll continue that leaf weave on both sides up to where those wires cross. Once we've reached where those wires cross, we want to fix the front and the back trio together. And to do that, we're just going to swap over the weaving wires. So we'll take that weaving wire from the back, through the front base wires, and that weaving wire from the front we'll take to the back. We'll then continue the weave as before, but with those swapped wires. And we just want to continue the weave up to where it clears where the frames are crossing. And we're now ready to make the bail. For this pendant, we're going to make a double bail. So we're going to continue with the base wires in the direction they're going. But we're going to leave out these bottom two wires, so we can just bend those out of the way for now. And then we're going to basically continue the weave, but without that third wire. So from where I've left it, we'll wrap both wires twice, then the top wire 5 times, then both wires twice again, and just the top wire 5 times. And we're going to wrap this 5-2 weave on both sets of double wires. So I'll just switch over to show you the other side for a moment. And remember, this is upside down. So we're wrapping 5 times on just the bottom wire and then twice on both wires. And we're just going to wrap this a fair way to make enough to create our bails. I want to make a bit longer bail, so I've wrapped a fair way here. Then we're just going to bend each of those sides back to create the bail. We want the end of our weave to meet where the wires are crossing at the front. Now we just need to make sure the top of those bails are even, so we can use our awl to help with that. And just mould those wires into shape. Now I don't really want the bulk of having those wires crossing at the back as well. So we're just going to bend them outwards. Make sure they still sit flat whilst you do this. And then we'll do the other side as well. And this way they can just sit alongside each other. At this point, we can lock the two sides of the bail together by swapping those wires over again. So we'll just take that one that's weaving at the top at the moment downwards, take the bottom one upwards, and just put another wrap on the weave on both sides. Then we also want to secure this back part of the bail to the front of the pendant. So we'll make a space with our awl. Take our weaving wire through that back weave of the cross. It can be a little bit fiddly, but just have patience, it will go through eventually. Then do the same with the other weaving wire. So you can see here we've got those two weaving wires bridging that space. And we're going to pull each of them tight. and press that all together until there's no gap. We can then take those weaving wires around the outside of the frame we just went through to the back part of weaving and continue that 5-2 weave. This should mean everything's now nicely secured together, and we just need to work on the embellishment. Now, I don't like my pendants to be too symmetrical, and the embellishment's a great place to play with asymmetry. So that's what I'm going to do here, although they will be similar both sides. So first off, we're going to continue that 5-2 weave down those pairs of wires. And we can twist and shape those wires as we go. We're going to curve this left-hand side round about halfway down the teardrop. And we'll weave a bit longer on the right-hand side. Twist that round as well. And curve it so it's coming across the frame just above the bead. And once we're happy with that basic placement, we can lock those embellishments to the back weave in the same way as we've done before by making a space with our awl. Take that weaving wire through to the back. Around one of those base wires. And then through to the front again. And continue that weave on the embellishment. Once that embellishment has crossed over the back frame, we're going to be taking those wires to the back. So I'll put a few extra single wraps on that wire. Then trim those base wires so they'll fit through the frame. And then curve them around to the back. And we can hold them at the back and check from the front that they're sitting how we want them. We can then trim off the excess and make sure those wires are sitting flush to the frame and won't catch. We'll then do exactly the same on the right hand side to secure that embellishment to the frame and finish off the ends of the base wires. At this point, I have left the weaving wires on, just in case I wanted to use them for anything. And now we can tackle those two bare wires and decide where we want to place them. I think on this right hand side, I'm going to have it crossing over the front. And on the left hand side, I think I'll bring it under where that existing embellishment's sitting. I'll just shape that nicely around. Make sure those wires are curving gently and smoothly. Then trim them and curve them round to the back as we did with the other embellishments. I think I'm going to take that one quite high up. And I'll trim that weaving wire off, I definitely don't need it. Then take that other bare wire around. Make sure it's sitting just where I want it. Trim off that other weaving wire. And then trim the ends of those bare wires I've just taken through. And make sure they're sitting flush to the frame. And our pendant is finished. If you enjoyed this video, why not head to this playlist for more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.